If you're looking for an exciting podcast, today is the day. I have the amazing Chris J. Reed from Singapore, who's the only NASDAQ CEO with a Mohawk. And I don't even have a Mohawk. So I think it transfers like a lot of energy as well, because he's just, Chris is on fire. And we talk a lot about personal branding and building your power profile and how to actually convert that into leads and how to actually do the business side of thing on LinkedIn and with business and social selling as well, and looking at how do you define what is my Mohawk, as Chris said very, very eloquently, in terms of what really makes you stand out and how do you use it as a catalyst for business. So all that with Chris J. Reed coming up on Breaking Digital.
Overwhelmed with online, or just wanting to learn more about how you can build a successful business amidst all of the self-appointed gurus, big buzzwords and empty promises? The Breaking Digital podcast by Doyle Bueller tells you exactly what smart entrepreneurs need to know to escape the clutter, get clear of the confusion, and pass the bullshit of building and growing a successful business online. It's about digital leadership and delivering the best value for your business online to your audience. Now, here's your host and author of the book on digital leadership and online marketing, The Digital Delusion, Doyle Bueller.
All right, so welcome back. And today I've got an absolutely amazing guest all the way from joining me from Singapore. I've got Chris J. Reed, who is the one and only NASDAQ CEO with a Mohawk. And he's doing some amazing things in the marketing field and social media and LinkedIn and everything else. So welcome to the program, Chris.
Thank you very much, Dwight. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm really, really excited. And we had a little quick introduction before, and just so many amazing things that you're doing. And it's like, you got to tell us a little bit about yourself. It's like, we got to start somewhere.
Well, I mean, we got two companies over here in sunny Singapore, but we really focus on the whole of Asia Pacific. But we also have clients in Europe and America and the UK because of places like Australia, for example, and Perth and Sydney, because we do personal branding and we center it through LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is 500 million professionals now, but it's all about your personal brand. And more so now, it's about an entrepreneurial's personal brand. It's about how they market themselves and their company through their personal branding on LinkedIn. So I do the ultimate in terms of using that as an example of the Mohawk. Yeah. I market myself through a Mohawk.
Yeah, exactly. So you must get spotted pretty easy.
All the time, every single day in every city I go into. I can go to Shanghai or Hong Kong and I get noticed.
Yeah, so does that mean that I should get a Mohawk and everybody else should too, or what?
Oh my God, if we all had Mohawks, that'd be really, really cool, but I'd then have to change and do something else.
Yeah, then what would you do? We'd have you on the run.
Well, precisely. I mean, it's very personal. I mean, luckily, not many people have Mohawks these days, so it's quite easy to kind of stand out. And I changed mine. So mine's now red, and it used to be blue because my black marketing company is blue, and black and white, whereas my dark art and marketing company is red, black, and white. So we kind of match the colors to the company and also to the books. We have 2 books out. New books just come out, Personal Branding for Mastery for Entrepreneurs. And that's very much about how you take your personal brand beyond LinkedIn into the rest of the world.
And why did you decide to kind of start with or work on personal branding for entrepreneurs? Why is that important to you?
Because when I first came to Asia, Doyle, about 8 years ago, I literally did not know a single person. So I started reaching out on LinkedIn to people I knew in the UK and get introduced to people in Asia. And then I got my first, second, and third jobs by using networking on LinkedIn. Then I got business using LinkedIn. And then I realized it's very much about my personal branding, using things like content marketing, and then developing the Mohawk when I created Black Marketing 4 years ago. And people associating the Mohawk with me, with the business, and be able to create awareness and cut through. Because it's a very competitive field. I'm up against, multinationals, agencies. I'm up against multinationals, companies doing it themselves. So I have to get some kind of cut through, and people have to see, he's using his personal brand in that way by using his Mohawk and his branding and his personality and his content marketing and his talks and his books and so forth to present himself, but also to create awareness and attraction and engagement for his company and what his company could do with everybody else. Not to say we don't advise everybody else to have a Mohawk, but we use the Mohawk as saying, well, what's your Mohawk? What's your USP? Why should people engage with you? What's your kind of a unique selling point?
Oh, that's excellent. And how do you discover that? So what is my Mohawk then?
I think it's probably your amazing experience in startups and digital and entrepreneurialism, because you've got experience across the whole of the world. What I love, when we had a quick chat before, is you're now in New York, but you've done Australia, you've done Europe, you've done Asia Pacific, and you're using your experience to kind of cross-fertilize and cross-sell and also pass that on to other people. And doing things like this is fantastic, passing that experience on. Like, that's why when you reached out and said you want to do an interview, I said, yeah, fantastic, because it's all about sharing. And I share so much on LinkedIn about what we do and how we do it. People say, aren't you worried about giving away all your secrets? And I said, no, I'm not worried at all, because the whole point is you can do it too. You can be an entrepreneur too. You can do the same thing, just that I've just happened to have done it, and I happen to have used it myself, and I've passed these tips on. If you have the time and energy to do it, it's fantastic. So that's why I wrote the book about it. That's why I do talks, because it's very much about giving that back to people. And 99% of people can do it themselves, and 1% of people then use our services, and actually that's how we build a business. But we don't rely on the 99%. Those 99% go out and tell other people, oh, I learned this from Chris, and Chris enabled me to get a new job, or Chris enabled me to win a client, or Chris enabled me to get a book deal, or Chris enabled me to be on TV. And that's fantastic positive word of mouth, because we gain nothing from that directly, but indirectly, of course, we gain fantastic positive brand association.
Yeah, and it's really quite funny, because that conversation comes up a lot. Like, oh, well, I don't want to give away my secrets. Then they'll be able to do what I'm going to show them. And it's like, well, I think things have changed a little bit since then.
Yeah. So it's also, people say the same thing about LinkedIn, Doyle. People say, oh, you shouldn't connect with people because they can steal your contacts. And first thing I say is, they're already on LinkedIn. And just because you don't connect with them does not mean they can't find them. They can find them another way. So embrace them. Embrace connecting with people and see how they can help you and you can help them. And you'll actually be amazed if you open up to people. People actually help you.
Yeah, I know. It's we can go on for hours about, who should you talk to on LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff. But what are some of the key things that entrepreneurs are doing wrong? Let's start there with their personal branding.
It's an excellent question, Todd, because I get asked that all the time. And normally in Asia and Europe, for example, they have a big problem in terms of being too modest. So Americans have no modesty gene at all. It was removed at birth, which is a fantastic thing for something like LinkedIn and personal branding.
Yeah,
I wrote a great blog about it, saying I advise my clients, for example, and I wrote a book. Part of my chapter of my book and my talk is about being less English and being more American. And I say that in a very positive sense, in terms of Americans have no problem at all in saying, I won this award, I led this company, I did this, I did that. Whereas Asians, Aussies, Kiwis, and English people all have a big problem. And the trouble is, if they are too modest, then there will be some American who comes along and goes, you know what, I did this, and they get the job. They get the investment, they get the employees, they get the credits. And they're not lying, they're just basically stating what they've done.
There's just stating the facts.
Yeah. Totally. It's getting entrepreneurs to believe in themselves more, particularly female entrepreneurs. We have a lot of female client entrepreneurs who are so more modest, and you can see that on LinkedIn. LinkedIn did a survey last week that said, the most modest CVs and LinkedIn profiles were all female, even though they'd actually achieved as much, if not more, than male entrepreneurs on LinkedIn. But male entrepreneurs have more testosterone, and they're more kind of like, I've done this. Whereas female entrepreneurs say, no, it's a team effort. It was all us working together, much more kind of modest. But the trouble is they're defeating themselves. They're shooting themselves in the foot. So it's much more about getting them to believe in themselves. And that's what we do, particularly with female entrepreneurs, is actually elevate them and accentuate their positivity and accentuate their amazing experience and credentials. Because 9 times out of 10, they've actually done more than the male entrepreneurs that just haven't told anyone about it.
Oh, really? But is that maybe more just because they don't know how to use LinkedIn? Like, they're not sure who's listening and what people might think, or, is there a reason behind this?
It's both, I think, Doyle, because I think that affects both men and women. But it's also a culture thing. Females aren't as aggressive, aren't as self-promoting as men, and also Asian and Australian, Kiwi, and English men are also not as self-promoting as, say, American men, for example. So you do really see it in Asia, particularly because you even see Americans over here, for example, who become more modest.
Oh,
which
really?
is really interesting. They start adapting to the culture over here, going, oh, no, I can't do that. I would get away with that in New York and San Francisco, but I would not get away with that in Shanghai or Hong Kong or KL or Jakarta.
Yeah.
And they start adapting back the other way. So it's our job to actually elevate their positive achievements and to actually showcase what they actually have done.
So, then the big question is, as a expat Canadian, where do Canadians fit in?
That's a good question,
And I'll just highlight that I'm always mistaken for an American. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
That's a very good question. I think Canadians fit in the middle. The Canadians I've met here tend to be a bit in the middle. They're not as modest as English people, but they're not as aggressive as Americans.
Okay, all right. Well, that's good to hear. We're doing their countrymen proud, I guess. So what strategies should entrepreneurs take then? Like, instead of just blurting everything out, what should they do to kind of get their message across, build their brand on LinkedIn specifically?
Well, they should certainly think about little things like their keywords, for example, and their headlines, for example, and things like their background picture. I mean, I love yours. Yours is a great example of what to do on LinkedIn because you have a great background picture. Your strap lines up there. You've got exactly what you do. You've got a nice quote on the right-hand side. You've got your channels up there, and you've got ready to evolve your strategy and marketing is your headline. Absolutely fantastic. And your summary section is really, really good as well. So Doyle's, if kind of people are listening to this and go to Doyle's LinkedIn profile, you'll see a fantastic example of how to do a LinkedIn personal branding strategy. It's really, really cool because it's not overly aggressive. It's very factual. It's very positive. And I love the way you use your happy smiley face and how you actually communicating that. No, it's very positive. People respond to positive people. Yeah. And you're kind of coming across very positively, Doyle.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that, Chris. Well, yeah, but you'll have to tell me how I can make it better then. Or is that going to be a secret?
I'm sure you can give me some tips. I'm sure you can give me some tips. Interesting thing. You do Facebook. I don't do Facebook.
Okay.
Partly because it's I don't believe in it from a B2B point of view. But you can probably give me some tips about why you think Facebook is good from a B2B point of view.
Yeah, cool. I think it's just sort of cultivating more of a friendship side of business. Like I do associate with a lot of people on Facebook, but yeah, you're right. From a B2B perspective, LinkedIn is definitely the channel for that. I almost think that my tone changes on Facebook a little bit. I mean, look, I do duplicate some stuff too, and I'm not going to say I write everything exactly for each platform, but yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of more colloquial, I guess, on Facebook. I find there's a lot of timidness as well on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But I also find that YouTube is very good. We use YouTube quite a lot because the power of video is actually phenomenal. And we find YouTube both a kind of B2B and a B2C platform.
Yeah.
And we can use the YouTube videos on LinkedIn and on blogs and so forth as well. So when we have awards, for example, we get a video, or we have a talk, we put it on LinkedIn via the YouTube channel. So then you're hitting both areas. And I find I get a lot of engagement on YouTube. People watch my videos on LinkedIn and on YouTube.
Oh, fantastic.
So that works very well. And the same thing with our clients. We get them all to do YouTube channels.
Yeah.
And to get videos out there to actually, because there's nothing better than actually seeing someone you're about to meet in real life on a video. And you really engage with them, going, oh, really cool guy. He says some really cool things there. I don't mean the kind of long videos. I mean just, like between 2 and 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I mean, that's kind of the a question that I want to get into as well. And actually, maybe, Chris, I'll invite you and let's have a LinkedIn video session. Maybe next week.
Love to.
Would you love to?
I'd love to, absolutely love to. Yeah, no,
okay,
I
cool.
find that very, very positive because people engage with video a lot differently than they do with podcasts and blogs, for example.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I've started to do some LinkedIn video, but I would love to do an interview with you next week.
Sounds good.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, and we'll do it on video this time, but I won't have a mohawk.
Do you still have the long hair that you have in your picture?
I do, yes. I could probably make a kick-ass mohawk. I just need a lot of hairspray.
You could have a ponytail instead.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So back to sort of the real stuff here. What other strategies could entrepreneurs use to growing their personal brand? What's really important?
Content marketing I find very important because content marketing is the key to everything because content marketing goes across the board. So that what you write, what you share, what you put in other mediums apart from LinkedIn, what you do as a talk. I mean, getting up on stage and doing a talk using content, for example, is phenomenally important because people really buy into your personal brand and go, wow, you know what? That's really made me think. That's really changed my behavior. And then you replicate that on places like LinkedIn. You replicate it in blogs. You replicate it in places like books, for example. And that's on things like YouTube and videos and podcasts. And it's all about your content marketing strategy. If you have a very poor content marketing strategy, don't know what your pitch is, don't know what your points of interest are, don't know how you're going to make a difference to someone, then you really shouldn't be doing anything at all. It's better to kind of start from scratch and think, what am I really offering other people? Why is someone going to buy into this? Why is someone going to share this? Why is someone going to recommend me by listening to this, even if they're not potential clients? And that's absolutely key. People, entrepreneurs particularly, don't really have a good grasp, I feel, about content marketing and how their content comes across and how that reflects on their personal brand.
And so they're basically inextricably linked, right? You can't have a personal brand without content. And again, would that be because they don't know how, they haven't been taught, they're not sure what to say? Like, what do you think the biggest reasons are?
I mean, all those three things, definitely, Doyle, because entrepreneurs, not all of them obviously are marketing entrepreneurs like you and I. A lot of them are just marketing entrepreneurs.
Yeah, true.
Sorry, are entrepreneurs that do other things.
Yeah.
And they haven't really thought through, an accounting entrepreneur or professional services entrepreneur or a medical tech entrepreneur or even a fintech entrepreneur. They sometimes haven't got a clue how to present their content marketing. And you see it all the time on LinkedIn. You think, why have you shared that? Why have you said that? And then they don't really come across. You think you're damaging your personal brand as opposed to enhancing it.
Yeah.
And they have, because I mean, to be fair, they're not in marketing. That's why we tend to be reached out to. We work quite right across the board. We have a lot of technology entrepreneurs, interestingly, who are amazing at creating new things, but terrible at doing their own marketing. And we even work for a lot of marketing entrepreneurs who are terrible at doing their own marketing. Yeah. Because they're great at doing other people's marketing, but when it comes to themselves, they come back to, oh my God, I haven't got time, I don't know what to do. Yeah. And it's like, why don't you treat yourself like a client? If you were your own client, would you do this? No, you wouldn't do this. So why are you doing it? And they're doing nothing. And it's like, but you're a marketing entrepreneur doing nothing on LinkedIn. What are you saying to people if you can't be bothered to do it yourself?
Yeah, no, that's totally true. You kind of get stuck working in your business as opposed to on your business.
Totally.
Yeah,
but I mean, personally, you have to do it. And you do it very well, Doyle, and I do it very well, but you have to do it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because, well, for me, it's part of my job, right?
Precisely.
I can't escape from it, because if I'm not doing it, nothing's happening, right? So what are some of the steps that entrepreneurs can take then to develop some really powerful content?
That's, again, very, very good question. It's really looking back about what service you are offering that makes it different to somebody. So what are the core aspects? So we started off doing LinkedIn marketing because we saw a niche for LinkedIn. We saw people who weren't doing LinkedIn. We wanted to take it from the recruiting, which is what LinkedIn used to be known for, into a content marketing and sales point of view. So we're not ashamed to say we do LinkedIn for sales, and we do it for our clients for sales, because most of our entrepreneurs and clients are not very good at selling and don't want to sell. They don't want to ask people to money, which is just amazing. Whereas we're quite happy to sell. I'm selling all the time, very happy to go to any networking event and sell, because I love it. And it's passing on those tips in terms of how you actually sell a core point and getting across your core USP. So our core USP is we do LinkedIn marketing for entrepreneurs. And then now we do personal branding for entrepreneurs beyond LinkedIn. And people, once you start explaining these two aspects, people really, really get it and say, that's fantastic. I understand how that works. And then you use someone like Richard Branson as the ultimate example. When you think about Richard Branson, you think about his content marketing, you think about his stunts and his blogs and his interviews. You think about all the Virgin brands, and he's marketing all the Virgin brands through all his content marketing, all its many machinations, whether it's books or videos or websites or his talks or his stunts. And he's really got it, and he's always has. When the internet didn't exist, Richard Branson was doing stunts to get on the front page of newspapers in the 70s and the 80s to market his megastores and his planes. And it hasn't changed since then. All he's done is adapt his content marketing strategy to now encapsulate the digital age. And he's an excellent example. So that's what we do for entrepreneurs. We boil it down to what's your core message, what's your service, what difference do you make, and who do you want to target?
Yeah, excellent. So taking that then to the next step, which is, okay, you've got a great personal brand, you've got some great content, people are enjoying it. And then I got to ask you, like, what side of the fence do you sit on rather in terms of social selling, and how do you move those people then to sort of that lead generation side of things? How do you get into the sales conversation?
We're very aggressive when it comes to social selling. We really, really do firmly believe in it. I mean, I have the most searched for profile in the whole of Asia Pacific because we're using keywords on our LinkedIn, and people underestimate that people are searching on LinkedIn for things. And if you don't put your keywords in there, then you can't be found. And I meet people who said, oh, but my LinkedIn instructor told me to put less is more and put one line in here and not to put much in my headline and my strategy and my summary and not to put my experience in, and saying, well, you just shot yourself in the foot because you won't be found. And it's like going back to the reason why I have all my non-executive positions, my NGO positions, all my positions across the world and all my non-executive positions, my authorships and so forth on LinkedIn, so people could find me. Because people do a search, I'll suddenly pop up in terms of the keywords. So it's using social selling in terms of your own profile, which is the basic level, and then using lots of connections to basically reach out to the right kind of people. So, for example, Doyle, if I target Australia, I target, say, Brisbane, where I was a couple of months ago, I'll target entrepreneurs in Brisbane on sales on LinkedIn, connect with those people because they will lead me to other entrepreneurs in Brisbane. And then I can use the Sales Navigator platform on LinkedIn to reach out to my second connections with a very nice personalized message saying what I can do for them. And then they can double check the fact we both know people in common. And the more shared connections you have in common, and the better your profile, and the better your content marketing, the more that someone is going to respond to your message. So ultimately, Sales Navigator is a phenomenal platform, but it doesn't work if you don't have a very good profile and lots of connections and a great content marketing strategy.
Yeah. So should they look at sort of pushing those to the limit first before they kind of look at selling? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because if you try and do social selling on LinkedIn and you've got 200 connections, it's a waste of time. We say you have a minimum of 1,000 connections within your target audience. Mm-hmm. Absolutely key, because, and also we obviously I live in Singapore, so we have lots of expats, for example, who have lots of connections in America, completely useless in Asia because they're trying to target Jakarta or KL or Bangkok or Shanghai. And it's like, well, you need to know people in those cities because they know other people in that city. There's no point targeting someone in America because they might know the people in New York if you're targeting Shanghai. You need to use your second and connections and third connections wisely, but you only do that by having lots of first connections in the cities and in the entrepreneur areas and in the service areas that you want to target.
Yeah. So you're saying be very specific about who you're connecting with first. Is that
very
correct?
Specific? Really think about their second connection. So even if someone looks perfect on paper and they've got like 100 connections, they're useless to you, because they can only lead you to 100 second connections. What you really want is the entrepreneurs who are active on LinkedIn, who've got thousands of connections, who can lead you to other people. So that's why I get people all the time saying to me, "Oh, I never connect with headhunters on LinkedIn." I said, "Why? You have more to gain by this relationship than they do. Yeah. You probably have 30,000 connections to gain from there. They only have your couple of hundred. Who's winning out of this relationship?" They go, "Oh, I never thought about it like that," because people don't understand that actually it's about the second connections on LinkedIn, not just the first.
Yeah, excellent point. So from that, then, where do you sort of you kind of alluded to it earlier, but when do you actually start talking business then?
So, I mean, I'm very direct. I mean, I'm from Newcastle in the UK, and I'm very, very direct, sometimes too direct for people. And I sometimes get very, very posh and frightened Australians going, "Oh, you're very direct. I just thought we were having a cup of coffee. I didn't realize you were going to sell to me as well." Okay. It's like, I only have like 20 slots in the whole of Sydney. I'm down there for like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. for 3 days. So, I as much as I'd love to have a coffee with you and, cut the fat and, chew the fat, and have a smoke and have a drink and all the rest of it. And, while the hours are away, I actually have a business to run. Yeah. So actually I have to be very, very focused. So I'm very direct. So basically we find the people on Sales Navigator, we send them a nice message. So a good example, I'm going to Melbourne and Sydney next week, and I have back-to-back meetings from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. at night, every single night in both Sydney and Melbourne. They're qualified leads where I've reached out to them and I said, very simple message, I am visiting Sydney. Mm-hmm. I would love to help you with your LinkedIn marketing and your personal branding strategy. I will be in the the Shangri-La Executive Lounge on these 3 dates. Are you free? Yeah. And it's very simple. People respond back and say, "You know what? I'd love to have a chat with you." And then we qualify them after that by sending them our services and saying, "Fantastic, we'll meet you at 7 p.m. On this particular date, and here are our services." And then you get people coming back going, "Oh, I can't afford your services," or "I didn't realize it was a sales meeting. I totally respect if you don't want to meet." And I say, with all due respect, I haven't got time to meet every single person I'd love to meet in Australia. I have to be very focused on potential clients. So then you fill up the diary with people who basically know you're going to basically sell them at that particular meeting, but want to find out more about what you can do for them. And they respect the fact you're being direct with them, because they too are busy entrepreneurs. I respect their time. They only have an hour, and we potentially have to justify in that hour why they should actually employ our services. But I do believe in being very direct on LinkedIn, but also appreciating somebody else's time. So that's why the message I send is very succinct. Very, very succinct, because ultimately LinkedIn, Doyle, is about meeting people in real life or about having Skype conversations like this. It's all about a catalyst to meet people. I never believe in you can sell someone on LinkedIn purely. You have to meet them in some format physically.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love that. Like it's a catalyst, right? You're not going to do all your business. You can't do all your business just on LinkedIn. No. It's a starting point.
Totally.
Yeah, excellent. So you're like a super gung ho guy, if you don't mind me saying, Chris. Is that kind of how you got to be like the power profile on LinkedIn? And is it Singapore or Asia, or how does that?
It's Singapore. So basically, there were power profiles in Hong Kong, Singapore, Australia, India, and the UK.
Oh, fantastic!
I don't think they do them in America yet. So they don't. So basically, to be a power profile, you have to have the most viewed profile across the year in that particular city. So I've been a power profile since they started in Asia 2012, every single year. And I'm the only marketing entrepreneur who's a power profile every single year, because most people are power profiles who are in multinationals because they get the views anyway.
Yeah.
If you're the CEO of, Synctel or DBS or, Optus or Commonwealth Bank, you get the views anyway because you're famous. You don't have to work very hard. Whereas entrepreneurs like you and I, Doyle, have to actually work hard for our views. So actually it's more justification. And you notice that because you looked at all the profiles. I did the analysis of the power profiles across the 7 years in Singapore. Only 2 of us had been on every single power profile for those 7 years. Me and other entrepreneurs. Nobody else. Because they all basically, even if they work for multinational, as soon as they change jobs from that multinational to, say, a startup, everyone stopped viewing their profile.
Oh, okay.
And so you have to work hard. I never take anyone for granted on LinkedIn. I work hard every single day to justify why someone wants to come to my profile every single day, because you can never be complacent on LinkedIn. And I think you do the same thing, Don.
Yeah. So what do you change it like monthly, quarterly, year? Well,
daily,
not
daily, Doyle.
Oh, well, I haven't been doing that.
Monthly.
Boom.
That's a lifetime. What are you talking about?
That's a lifetime. That's like 20 lifetimes in Australian years. So
but you do, because the LinkedIn algorithm actually rewards you for doing so.
Yeah.
A lot of people underestimate this. They're amazed when we take over their profiles and they've done nothing for months and months and months. And as soon as we just start doing things on LinkedIn, they immediately get more activity, more views, more weekly search appearances, and more people connecting. They think, this is amazing. This is wow. No, this is just the algorithm that LinkedIn has. They reward you for doing things.
Yeah. Well, and so they should, right? Because they don't want just people sitting on there doing nothing, sitting on the curb,
Correct,
kind of having a
Correct.
smoke. What really pisses you off about LinkedIn?
How long have we got? They keep changing things.
Okay.
I mean, literally every week. They obviously have lots of board engineers in San Francisco, kind of like going, "What should we fuck up today?"
Yeah, they
what should we screw up today?
They stagnated though for like I just signed up in 2005, and there was nothing really happened until yes, little things happened, but really they've kind of made a big shift in the last 18 months or so.
They have. I think they've got a big problem in terms of engagement. I mean, I joked about the fact that people don't use it, but only 1 in 5 people on LinkedIn are actually active, which means that only 100 million of the 500 million are actually bothering to do things on LinkedIn. And their job is to get the other 400 million people to actually start engaging.
Okay, yeah.
Because otherwise people will go over to things like Facebook or other platforms or Line or WeChat to actually use it. So some of the biggest problems is the fact that LinkedIn's designed the platform very haphazardly. If you look at things like their 3 main premium platforms, for example, you have Sales Navigator, you have Premium, and then you have Recruiter. Now, none of these 3 platforms talk to each other. So effectively, you have 3 inboxes. So I have accounts on all of them, and I literally have to log in, log out, log in, log out, because they don't have one central inbox. And you think, well, that's just madness. From a user point of view, user experience, a customer experience point of view, to have to log in and log out and have none of the mailbox talk to each other is madness. Yeah. Not least from the fact that you talk to somebody. So I talk to you on Premium Dial, and then I go to your Sales Navigator, but I've communicated with you on Premium. It doesn't show up on Sales Navigator. And then I talk to you on Recruiter, it doesn't show up there either. But if I send a message on Recruiter, it doesn't show up in Sales Navigator. So this obviously leads to people communicating with the wrong people at the wrong time. Yeah. And you can do it. It's madness. I mean, what the hell are you doing? It's like, surely you just amalgamate all the inboxes. But it's because they obviously had 3 separate design teams. And you can tell that because Recruiter looks different to LinkedIn Premium, which look different to Sales Navigator. They're like 3 completely different platforms.
Well, isn't that like user experience big mistake number 1?
Yes.
Okay, so even the big guys make mistakes, I guess.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, I think that's because a lot's obviously infighting in LinkedIn. They thought, oh, let's go this way, and you have a team develop this, and then let's go this way, have a team develop this. So I'm hoping that Microsoft will come in and actually help them kind of merge it all together. And you can, because they must realize this is a big problem.
Well, who's the CEO of LinkedIn?
Jeff Weiner.
Jeff Weiner. Okay, well,
and he's on the board of Microsoft now. But interesting, Reid Hoffman isn't, which I think is a big mistake.
Well,
I
maybe
think they offered him a board position, but he didn't want it.
Well, maybe I'll have to offer him a position on my podcast for an interview.
That'd be amazing. If you could get Reid Hoffman on there, Don, that'd be amazing.
I'll put him to task. Let me add him. So you mentioned that you wrote you've just recently got a book out. What's that? What's the title? Two books. Oh my God! Like you're like
the first.
Yeah.
I know, every year, yeah. And the first book came out last May. It became a best-selling book across the world, which is called LinkedIn Mastery for Entrepreneurs, which you can get at Amazon.com.
Yep.
And all formats, on an audiobook, hardback, Kindle, and paperback. And the new book reflects the new company, which is Dark Art of Marketing, and it's called Personal Branding for Entrepreneurs. So it's taking the personal brand beyond LinkedIn, but using LinkedIn as a platform to enhance and accentuate it. But people want to know more about, well, how do you do personal branding? How do I take my personal brand beyond LinkedIn into the real world, if you like? So yeah, we've got two books, also available on Amazon, on Kindle, and audiobook, and hardback, and paperback.
Oh, fantastic. And we'll have the link in the actual podcast notes for this as we get into it. So just kind of a final question, Chris, to wrap things up. Where do you think we're headed with the use of social media for business? I mean, or social selling, or take your pick.
Excellent question. Excellent question, because obviously LinkedIn in Asia, for example, is the fastest growing region. I mean, when I came to Asia 8 years ago, there was 5 million people in Asia on LinkedIn. Now there's 110 million people.
Wow.
And countries like India, China, Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, Myanmar are all places that are hundreds of millions of people. And as internet speeds get up, and as middle classes increase, and as business classes increase, and logistics and infrastructure increases, this is the region to be in when it comes to social selling and connecting. It's a very, very social area. They love socializing here, and they love talking to people, and they're very open-minded, very positive, much more positive than, say, people from the UK, which is why one of the reasons I left the UK. Very open-minded to learn. And I'm talking about both entrepreneurs, expats entrepreneurs, and local entrepreneurs. They're both, because what happens to an expat entrepreneur over here is they become a different person. So they might have been quite closed in, say, America or France or England. When they come over to Asia, they realize they have to start talking to people and listening to people. And they actually have to learn different language, different cultures, different ways of working, more social way of working, for example. And it's absolutely fascinating, but very challenging from an intellectual point of view. And that's where social selling is going over here in Asia. It's very much things like LinkedIn are really, really picking up, but also there's lots of other platforms over here. LinkedIn isn't used everywhere, just like Facebook isn't used anywhere, and Twitter's not really used at all in Asia, for example, apart from your home country of Australia. But outside of that, it's not really used anywhere at all. So people have their own, chat apps and social media, but LinkedIn luckily goes across the platform in terms of being in China, India, and all the big cities over here. So very much LinkedIn will continue in Asia. And in the West, it's very much about engagement. LinkedIn have admitted they're not really going to get any more people to join LinkedIn in places like America or Canada or the UK or France, because they're at saturation point. There is no more than people that can actually join who are professionals. So they need to increase the engagement now, which comes down to engaging those 4 out of 5 people who are not engaged to actually start using the platform. So it's absolutely fascinating. It's a wonderful place to be in, Doyle. I just see it getting more and more exciting going forwards.
Well, cool. Maybe then, you know what? I'm sold. I'm moving to Singapore, Chris.
It's a lot less tax than America and Australia.
Yeah, cool. Hey, I can live with that. No, fantastic. Really, really appreciate your time, and I love your energy, Chris. It's infectious. So really appreciate what you've been able to talk about, your insights, your ideas, and all that. What's the best way that we can find you or contact you in the digital
Well, obviously
space?
LinkedIn. You can contact me for free on LinkedIn. Every single person contact me for free on LinkedIn. So just go to LinkedIn and put Chris J. Reid into LinkedIn, or put Mohawk into LinkedIn, and I will come up. So you put the Mohawk into LinkedIn, I'll come up, believe me.
All right, cool. Well, I'm going to have to go and get a Mohawk done. And
I'd like to see that, Doyle.
Well, we'll wait and see. So thank you so much again, Chris.
Pleasure.
Really appreciate your time. And for all the listeners, we'll have the podcast notes. We'll have the links to Chris's books and how to get in touch with him as well. So thank you very much. And that's it for today, and we'll see you online. Thank you very much for listening to Breaking Digital, the podcast for smart entrepreneurs wanting to become true digital leaders in their industry and to own online. If you have any comments on the program, please feel free to connect on Twitter @DoyleBuehler with the hashtag #OwnOnline. I would really appreciate it if you could share this podcast with your network, as I'm sure they will get some value from it for building their successful business online as well. You can find the resources that we talked about, as well as the transcript and full podcast for download on thedigitaldelusion.com/podcast or on iTunes or on SoundCloud. I'm Doyle Bueller, and I will see you online.
Thank you for listening to Breaking Digital with Doyle Bueller. While he goes and makes a sandwich, you can find all of the notes, links, and details on this podcast by visiting thedigitaldelusion.com/podcast. Go on and click that now. www.thedigitaldelusion.com/podcast. I'll definitely click that. If you'd like a free copy of the book, The Digital Delusion, How to Overcome the Misguidance and Misinformation Online, just send an email to doyle@thedigitaldelusion.com. See you online.